been a long and eventful 9 months since the community was notified that our district was being put on ISBE's financial watch list. During this time, a great deal of information has been uncovered and discussed concerning the BOE and administration's practices. Unfortunately, our discoveries have left us with more questions than answers. Tonight, I will pose some of those questions to all of you. So please listen closely because this is going to be a rapid-fire 5 minutes. Why was the forensic audit that was voted on changed to an agreed-upon procedures audit? Why was this discussed and changed during a closed session and not in front of the public? Which BOE members voted not to pursue the forensic audit but chose instead to do the agreed-upon procedures audit? Why hasn't a report of the agreed-upon procedures audit been given? How could the district spend $31 million over budget between 07 and 15 when their budgets for those years were projected to be a surplus of approximately $500,000? Why wasn't the deficit spending addressed before it landed us on the watch list? Why were the bonds restructured in 2013, adding 9 years and $109 million to our debt service? Why hasn't the BOE ever amended any of its budget as required by ISBE? Why are there numerous instances of expenses being paid out of the wrong accounts? Why were the janitorial expenses paid out of the transportation fund, some utilities recorded to the education fund, building and trades program out of the student activity fund? Why is there a $500,000 deficit in the student activity fund that relates to the building trades program? Do the BOE members understand that when expenses are recorded in the wrong accounts, it skews the operating expenses per pupil? Why is Lincoln Way 210 sitting on 3 unused parcels of land? Why was additional land purchased to build north for $3.4 million when we had land at 191st and Harlem that was purchased at $3.7 million? After purchasing the 191st property, why did the district lease it back to the previous owners for $10 a year? Why did the district purchase another 100 acres of land in Manhattan for $4.9 million in 07 and 08 when we already owned 80 acres there that was bought in 1993? Why didn't that additional 100 acres in Manhattan have an appraisal done? For that matter, why didn't 210 have appraisals done on any of the properties bought? Why, after 7 years of deficit spending, would the district continue to purchase property when we were in a downward financial spiral? Why did the DRP that was submitted to the ISBE only include these 3 items: the closure of a school, taking out loans, and employee raises? Why weren't any expenditure reductions considered and listed on the DRP? Why wasn't former board member Chris McFadden's September 2015 report regarding the district's finances and questionable procedures presented to the public? Was his report discussed in a closed session? Were any of his recommendations instituted? Why hasn't the Finance and Building Advisory Committee been established? Why hasn't the district's BOE Audit Committee been functioning? Why hasn't the community and BOE heard any further reports from Mr. Langert? Has he created the cash flow report that he mentioned in his only presentation? Has Dr. Tingley met with the Illinois Auditor General as he proposed he would do at a previous board meeting? Was the cost analysis relating to the closure of North slated to be performed over winter break ever completed by Dr. Tingley? Why doesn't Mr. Samhain report on any of the proposed Illinois legislation pertaining specifically to the Lincoln Way 210 financial situation? How does the BOE justify paying almost $200,000 in pension penalties with taxpayer-funded money? Why is Aunt Nancy's daycare allowed to occupy space in all 4 schools, yet they pay no rent? Why was Aunt Nancy's awarded a contract without following protocol of submitting an RFP along with other daycare providers? Why wasn't the BOE notified of this contract and asked to vote on it? Why wasn't the contract reviewed more closely to ensure that the proper amount of insurance coverage was secured? Why did the district use $90,000 of taxpayer money to purchase playground equipment for those daycares? How was the dog training facility allowed to be built with taxpayer dollars? And why did Lincoln Way 210 also provide maintenance, security, and insurance at no cost to a privately owned company? Why wasn't this training facility discussed in a meeting and voted on? How does the BOE justify paying the foundation's director's salary and benefits out of taxpayer funds? Shouldn't this position, as well as her assistants, be voluntary like similar foundations in the area? The district cited that they would save $5.2 million by closing doors.
1 minute, Susan.
What specific data was studied and used for that amount? Why did a FOIA request asking supporting data for the alleged $5.2 million in savings come back from the district, stating that no data request existed? Were transportation costs considered when a decision was made? Were published best practices followed when deciding to close a school? How is it possible that it took a committee 2 years to decide to build North and West, 6 months to change an employee's insurance company, yet only 99 days to decide to close a school? Does the BOE fully comprehend that 46% of the entire district's population will be reassigned westward? Does the BOE understand that Lincoln Way East will have approximately 1,000 more students than West and 800 more than Central, but that all the schools will still have the same number of administrators at each school despite the enrollment discrepancy? Unfortunately, there are so many other questions that could be asked. It is my hopes that the BOE will address these questions and provide this broken, curious, caring community with some well-deserved answers. And for Dr. Casey and Mr. Lucetti, who is not here, Since neither of you voted to close a school, I would request now that you have the opportunity to motion for a recall of the vote to close any school until these questions are answered and a proper financial audit is completed. This is not about being right. It is about doing the right thing. Thank you.